another episode of Yard Abroad, featuring myself, Lakeshia Marie.
Zinga Makeda.
Yes. So today we're talking, it's March, it's Women's International Month. First of all, it's always about us, but we're highlighting women and great women, especially with this episode. Today we're talking to our beloved Dedo. Dedo, welcome to our podcast, Yard Abroad.
Thank
Big
you,
up yourself.
thank you.
So for those of you who don't know, I feel like I might not do it justice. So Dedo, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Well, okay, my name is Dedo Azu. I own a bunch of restaurants and cafe. TeaBaa is the flagship restaurant, and now I have two cafes, Baa Bean, that I love very much. I think that's about it, no?
Yeah.
Oh, what else?
I'm sure we'll get into more of who Dedo is, but for the most part,
that's true.
Infamous for TeaBaa, that the spot that gave us all the vibes.
Right.
I mean, this is the originator of it.
Of
Tipsy
teas.
Tipsy teas.
Literal and figurative.
And the culture of tea in Ghana.
Yes.
Right.
Awesome. So let's just get into it, right? So,
Right.
I'm hearing a little bit of, American accent. It might not be. Can you talk to us about where you've been and when did you come back? And how did you know you wanted to start a business? Talk to us about your journey with entrepreneurship and coming back to Ghana.
Okay, so I'm Ghanaian.
Yes.
I moved to Canada when I was about 18. And I said to myself that I was going to be there for about 10 years, 11 years, and then come back home. I wasn't sure what I was going to do back home, but I just thought, you know what, it never really felt like home over there. So I decided, I'm going to come to Ghana and I'm going to create something.
Dope.
And then I said to my friends, if I've been here for 10 years, remind me that I said I was going to move back home after 10 years. So, of course, 11th year rolls around and my friends come, they're like, you said you were going to move to Ghana after 10 years. And I said, you know what? You're right, actually. And this was in October.
Wow.
December, I said, you guys, I'm leaving. And they were like, oh, you're coming back in January. I said, no, I'm leaving, I'm moving. So I picked up my 2 suitcases. I probably moved a couple of things like a mirror and something else. And then I just moved. It was as simple as that. I just up and moved.
From Canada?
From Canada.
What part?
Toronto.
Dope.
Toronto.
Okay.
And I loved it. I loved it very much. But I just felt like I needed to be here. I don't know why. I just felt like, I just want to go home. I want to spend time with my parents because I had been living outside of Ghana for 11 years. I'd see them maybe once every 2 years. It just didn't feel like it was enough. So I just...
If you don't mind me asking, how long ago was that?
Coming back or...
When did you come back? How long ago was that?
I came back in 2009.
Wow.
Same year I came.
Yeah, 2009.
So you've been here over 10 years.
It's crazy. It feels like I've been here 2 years, and it feels like I've been here a million years.
I did not
at the
know
same
that.
time. At the same time, yeah. A lot has happened, and a lot has changed, and a lot hasn't changed. But it's been 11. It's been 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So from the time you moved here, what made you say, finally, let me do this? And how long did it take you?
It took me a long time to get to TeaBaa. When I moved back, I decided that I was going to create... My main goal was to create things that I felt I was going to miss in Canada. That was on my mind. I said, anything that I feel like I used to go to or do that I was just going to get into it. So we started... a friend and I started a little market. And it was really cute. We had an event, but after that, we kind of, everything kind of went cold and then it fizzled out. And then I moved on. And then I started designing clothes because I really love clothes. And I'm from an entrepreneurial background. Like my parents have their own businesses. They've always had their own businesses.
Dope.
And I don't think there's anybody in my family who works for someone.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
it just seemed like the most natural thing to do. But I can't even lie. It got to a point where I think my parents were getting like a little frustrated. My mom was like, well, you can go to the embassy to look for a job there, since you...
Like, you gotta do something.
You
Get
gotta do
up out this
something.
house.
Yeah, because she didn't feel like the clothing thing was working too well for me because I felt like I didn't have control. I love clothes. I love structure and all that kind of stuff. So I started it for a couple of years and I just felt like, well, I can't do this very well without me knowing everything about it. I knew how to design. I didn't know how to sit behind a sewing machine to sew, but I felt like every time a worker would leave me, I'd be stuck. I'd be so stuck. I'm like, what do I do next? Where do I go? Where do I find people? So I thought long and hard about it. I said, do I really want to go and learn? Do I love it that much? And the answer was, no, I don't.
Right.
But passion came in. I love to cook. And whilst I was home doing the sewing thing and it wasn't working out, friends would come by on Sundays. I'd cook for them. I'd make teas for them and stuff. So, it felt like a natural progression. I was just doing something that I really loved, and then an opportunity came and I seized it. But it could have easily gone the other way because it just started as quickly as someone having a restaurant that wasn't working out. And she says, hey, you want to help me run this restaurant? And I said, well, I'm not really doing much, so I can do that. Right. And then it just snowballed from there.
Amazing. Wow.
So, yeah, that's how it started. So I can't really tell you there was a point where I felt like I have to do this.
Right.
Actually, this is the time to do this. It just feels, to me, it feels like your passions just, if you allow it, it morphs into a business. Not always, but sometimes. But for me, that's how it worked.
I love that because I think a lot of young women or just women in general or people in general have that question like, how do I find my purpose? How do I figure out what I want to do? So I love that nugget. So your passion is essentially your compass, right?
Yeah,
it will
and your
guide
calling
you
too. Yeah.
into what you're supposed to do.
That's
and I
right.
like that you stuck with the passion and essentially used it to help someone build up something that they needed help with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess identifying gaps and figuring out what you're good at,
Yeah.
and putting yourself in it and then building that like momentum.
That's true. That's true.
Dope.
And it just always feels like your passion really doesn't feel like you can turn it into a business. Usually, I never felt like that until, like in hindsight, I was like, I should have been doing this a long time ago, but it felt like, I just enjoy cooking and I just enjoy making teas. It doesn't mean I need to make a business out of it. Like, it didn't really connect.
Right.
But the more I did it, the more I was thinking, you know what? This comes to me naturally. I don't have formal training. Actually, I tell people I've never even been a waitress in my life. So I don't even know how things work in restaurants. I don't. And these are the little struggles that sometimes I find. I'm like, maybe if I knew how this worked already, I would figure it out. But I've had to carve out my own solutions.
Right.
I don't know how it's done everywhere else, but through trials and errors, I'm like, this works. Okay, this doesn't work. Okay, let's move on. So it's been a journey. It's been a real journey.
I can imagine 10 years, Makeda.
Yeah.
What are the things that you love about what you do?
The people I meet, first of all. I really, I've met the coolest people.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have ever met them if I hadn't started TeaBaa. Cool people, cool jobs, sometimes smart, sometimes funny. It's always different. That's my favorite thing. The second favorite thing is the fact that I get to cook and I get to teach people what I do and watch them make it. And people are like, you guys did this very well. There's a sense of pride there. Yeah. But my favorite thing is the people I meet.
Yeah,
Favorite.
I think that's what I liked about TeaBaa.
Yeah.
That you were just always like
in
around. You were in it. Yeah, really. In it.
I just remember just the idea that if there's ever a place that you need to go to just chill out and have a vibe,
right?
Yeah.
TeaBaa was it. I've had some pretty interesting experiences.
Always the best music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting experience. I remember I went on. I'm not gonna go into that.
You went on a date at TeaBaa. You know what? There have actually been
marriages,
three
from
weddings from TeaBaa.
Oh,
That is something to be proud. Yeah, The fourth one, I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if
didn't
it
get
happened or
married,
not.
but
But
that's dope.
yeah, people. I mean, I think the space just allowed for people to be themselves and to like each other, and,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So it really was a vibe. And a lot of people ask me, how did you create that? I didn't. I didn't.
Are you
I,
sure?
I did not.
You think the
or
people
maybe
did
it
it?
wasn't intentional, but I guess the energy that I gave off, because
Right.
it really is a difficult job, because I always have to meet people where they are when they come in. Some people come in, they're really happy, so then I need to lift my mood. Some people come in and they're really sad, and then I need to tone it down. So for me, it was a lot of hard work, but everybody felt like they were comfortable. Oh, you know what?
Right.
When the owner's there, she'll talk to you, and then somebody else joins, and I'm like, okay, you guys be friends. I gotta go into the kitchen, So it made people feel like they could come in and
Right.
just have a good time
Right.
without feeling like, oh, I need to go with somebody else to feel. It was just a vibe that it just happened. It just happened.
That's dope. I mean,
Yeah.
we have structured questions, but that makes me wonder, like, did you ever feel drained energy wise, and how did you like
Right.
A lot.
replenish your own energy?
I think that's been the hardest part.
Okay.
That has been the hardest part, because sometimes I'd leave work feeling like everything I did with my hands wasn't work, but the way I felt inside and in my head was hectic, because you listen a lot, you hang out with people a lot, and you pick up people's energies, and so at night I'd get home and sometimes I wouldn't say a word to anybody for at least 12 hours. I'd get home and I'd sit quiet for about an hour. Say nothing, do nothing, just stare, just so I could clear everything. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good. But around my family, they knew that don't talk to her. Like, I'd be there, but I wouldn't be there. They
Right.
wouldn't try to engage me too much, because
Right.
they knew that I was exhausted. I'm still exhausted. But I love it. That's the only thing that keeps me going
Going.
every day. I feel like, oh, I can do this again. And, I go and I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to be here today. And then I meet someone, I'm like, oh, I love this
I'm
job
so
so
happy I
much.
came,
yeah.
And there have been lifelong friends. It's been really good. It's been really good.
So, how is it being a woman as the boss? How do you deal with male staff in general? Do they respect you as a woman, as a boss?
And
what are the
doing business
difficulties?
in Ghana
Yeah.
as a woman.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tackle this two ways.
Yeah.
The staff part comes next.
Okay.
Doing business as a woman in Ghana is very interesting.
Okay.
The first 2 years, I would get so frustrated, because these guys would come in and they'll talk to me as if I didn't know what I was doing. But I hire you to come do a job for me. I'm like, okay, let's say this is a plumber or something. He comes in, I'm like, this is what I want. Oh, are you sure this is what you want? No, if we do it this way, maybe it'll be better. And it's just, they throw around the words, and they're like, okay, I'll come in tomorrow to do the work. He'll never show up. So I'll have to call my brother and tell my brother, you know what, call him to come. As soon as my brother calls him,
Wow.
he comes in. No, there were a lot of instances like that. And I was like, wait a minute, is it because I'm a woman, or it's just that my voice isn't strong enough to carry the authority, or just, slight disrespectful remarks, or
Microaggression.
things like, oh, hey, then your husband, he's giving you money to start
Oh,
this
wow.
business. Stuff.
Yeah.
No, a lot of things
Yeah.
that they don't think about, but they just throw around.
Right.
I'm like, what? But I found that there was a difference every time I'd make the call, and every time I'd get somebody else who was a male to make the call. Then the job would get done faster. Or I found myself being overcharged for a lot of work done because it was me. So a lot of times I'd ask somebody else, you call them, deal with them, because, as soon as they see me, first of all, they see you, and then they make their own
Right.
notes about what they perceive
Right.
about you. So that part I didn't like at all. It was really frustrating. And I was thinking, well, if you feel like I'm a woman and I can't do this job like I should be doing, maybe you should actually take it out of your time to help me out and not make it worse for me by
right,
overcharging me, or telling me how
Right.
my husband must be rich if I,
Right.
it was just a mess.
Horrible.
But at the same time, now I can't remember the rest of the questions. Oh dear. I don't
Dealing with the
remember.
staff.
Dealing with the staff. Respect. I've had a lot of staff. This is Ghana.
course.
Come in, go, come, go, come, go.
Your turnover
I've
staff-wise,
had a
guys, will
few
be-
who
yes.
I just felt like couldn't take instructions because I was a woman. And they told other staff that, but this woman, who does she think she is to come and boss me around? Meanwhile, at the time, he was the worst employee I had. And so there was a lot of push and pull until I had to let him go. And I said, I'm going to show you who's boss right now by letting you go, because obviously this communication isn't working. I ask you to do something, and then, you tell people, who listens to women when they talk, stuff like that. Yeah. Things that would blow your mind. But I realized that it's ingrained
In the culture.
culture.
So I don't know if he knew that what he was doing was not
Right.
correct
Right.
or
Right.
not.
Like
I
not
don't know.
aware
But
of it.
all I know is it didn't help me get to where I wanted to go with my job. So
Right.
I just had to
Right.
I had a couple, but generally they're all right. I mean, once you hire them, they know who's boss. I walk into the room sometimes and the whole place gets really quiet because,
the boss is
the boss
here.
is in.
The chair is here.
Boss.
And that's the only time I feel like a boss. I'm like, yeah, you better be quiet.
So we need to be happy about that silence.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because that happens
Yes.
sometimes, and I'm like, guys, what?
If
But
they're not silent, then you're
they
in
don't
trouble.
respect.
Right.
Exactly. Most of the
okay.
time. I don't know. For me,
Uh-huh.
I always talk for me. So when I walk in and it's really quiet, I'm like, oh, okay. So they were saying something that I didn't need to know. But of course, you always have to have a snitch in there who comes to tell you, you know what?
One snitch.
This is happening, on the low key. So
This
then
person
it
is
keeps-
stealing.
Yeah. Stuff like that. But generally the respect is there, and I can see some people actually try even harder because they feel they see how hard I work, and they're like, you know what, let's also just give it a bit of a try. So yeah, that's that.
So who are your mentors, or do you have a mentor, or who do you look up to?
You know what? I look up to a lot of people, but I have no mentors.
Okay.
I remember 4 years ago, I always need a mentor. In fact, I think I still need a mentor. But I was desperate because I needed to talk to people who had done this before me and who knew the ropes. And I just needed help because I was lost. I jumped into it and I didn't realize how successful it was going to be. And I was just overwhelmed. I was like, who do I talk to? But I looked around and I said, first of all, I don't know anybody that I can run to in Ghana. That's the first thing. Number two, the other people that I see that I can talk to are busier than I am. So where are they finding the time? And then the third thing was not a lot of people are as open as it looks. They're like, oh, if you have any questions, come and ask me. And then, you try calling and it's like, I'm busy, I'll call you back. And then you don't get a call. So I don't have a mentor. I don't know what it's like to have a mentor. And I feel like my job would have been a little easier if I had one. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle.
That's interesting because
Yeah.
I feel like that as well. Like
Yeah.
I want a mentor. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not until you literally talk to someone who has been through it.
That's right.
To be like, okay, I know you're going north, but just shift east just
That's
a little
right.
bit, to
But
get you
do
there.
you have someone who do you know someone who you would want to be a mentor to you?
In Ghana
In
per
Ghana.
se, yes, but it's kind of the same idea. Like they're either doing the same thing and don't necessarily have the time, or
Right.
are like a little standoffish or not available. You don't know if they're available.
Right.
But I mean, to be honest, like maybe I could do a little better with reaching out to
That's
people
true.
who I admire.
That's
you know,
true.
but for the most part, I find that it's quite difficult. Not saying that I'm a victim, but
It just
I
doesn't-
want one, but where are
it doesn't
they,
seem
you know?
accessible.
Yeah.
It's like, well, who do I've actually I used to look it up on the internet. I was like, if I can find somebody in Ghana, I can probably find somebody else. But I found that people have mentors.
Yeah,
and it's
and you
working out
need
pretty
them.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
actually need
I
them.
think in this generation, we will be the mentors because, already there are people come to me and they're like, oh, I want to learn how to do this. I'm like, listen, it's really hard. But
Right.
if you do it this way and that way, it might, as far as I've gotten, I could tell you to do things this way. But
Right.
I don't know. I don't have a mentor.
It's interesting because remember the whole when we wanted to do the Jamaican food 2 years ago, first pine and ginger. Remember I came and
Yeah.
literally met you at TeaBaa and
Yeah.
was like,
Oh, yeah,
where do
that's
I
true.
find a grill?
That's true.
I want to
That's
make
true.
jerk chicken. Like, where do I go?
Yeah.
But in reference to what we just said, I think we will be the mentors. That's one of the reasons this podcast exists. Because when I moved to Ghana, I was like, dang, I wish someone told me.
things.
I
Yeah.
wish I could have figured something out sooner than later. I would have saved some time. So shout outs to Yard Abroad. Shout outs to us
That's
finally
right.
starting it. Hopefully you guys can pull some gems from this and it can enrich your experience.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone moving to Ghana, wanting to go into entrepreneurship as a woman? What advice would you give her?
It looks easy, but it's not. You'll have to spend a lot of time pushing through. Because it's really easy to give up as well. It's easy to just throw in the towel, but you'll just have to keep at it, whatever it is. Because I just still feel like there's a lot to be done in Ghana. There are a lot of opportunities to start things that will succeed, but there are a lot of things that work against you generally. Like,
Right.
you're a woman. You're in a hot country where everybody's trying to do something, and
Right.
there's a lot of back and forth. But you just need to keep at it. Just keep at it, and then at some point everything aligns, and then you start. I don't know if you're ever going to sail smoothly, but I just feel like it's worth it if you're able to stick with it. Like I haven't had any regrets at all
Wow.
since I started. None. I just want to be better and better at what I do, but I also need a team because I feel like it's getting much bigger than just me, and it would be nice to have other women who share the vision, who want to be a part of it, and that has also been a difficult part because people who can help you achieve, not help, but together
Right.
make
Right.
something great feel like, oh, I can do this on my own. So then they start, but I just feel like not everybody is set out to do things on their own just because they can.
Right.
Somebody can sew very well, but it doesn't mean that they can be a designer.
Right.
Because you'll need certain traits and characteristics to make it as a designer. Somebody knows how to fix cars. It doesn't mean that he can build a whole car.
Right.
So we just need to know where our strengths are, I think, and then plug ourselves where we feel like we can thrive. That's what
dope.
I think.
So with that, in reference to thriving, you talked about TeaBaa and then you talked about expanding. Can you
Right.
talk to us about what's happening? What are the new updates? What do we need to know?
Okay, so with TeaBaa, this is what happened. We outgrew the space where we were in a suit, and I decided it's time to move. At that time, there were a few things in the pipeline. I had found a place that I really liked in Laboni. I felt like, oh, this is going to be perfect. And then we left, we talked about it, and the plans fell through. They decided they didn't want to rent it anymore. It's been a year. It was supposed to be a 4-month break. It's been a year.
Wow.
It breaks my heart so
Wow.
much. Yeah, it has been a year. But everything that I've tried to secure in terms of a space, the perfect space, has kind of fell through. Eventually, finally, I have found a space that I feel is going to work. But it's been, it's been a lot of pressure when people call and they're like, oh, you said you were going to be open in 4 months. But I also have had to learn a lot of patience.
Right.
I've had to learn to just keep cool because sometimes it gets a little rocky, but it gets better. I know that I'm going to reopen this year. Finally, yay! I can't wait. Listen, everybody says I can't wait. Nobody can't wait as much as I can't wait. So it's going to open sometime in the summer, maybe June.
Okay.
But I just want everybody to know that I haven't abandoned the project. It's still very close to my heart. But in the meantime, I've been working. I started these cafes in like developments like Clifton Homes, where I have 2 cafes. Baa Bean, it's like a sister company to TeaBaa, so it's kept me busy,
So it's
and it's
not
kept me
the
not
same
broke.
thing.
It's not the same
People,
thing. It's a
okay.
sister company.
Got it.
Yeah, it is. So TeaBaa is gonna start up again. Hopefully, I don't want to raise any hopes, but it's going to be this year for
Yes,
sure.
2020.
And I've been working on it, and I haven't been on Instagram because password issues. I'm not very tech savvy. It's kind of funny. Password issues. Instagram not writing me back issues, but I finally got into it. So I think I'll be making a little bit of an announcement and all of that. But it's been sad because everybody comes in like, we miss the space so much, we
Right.
miss the food so much, we miss you so much. I'm like,
But in the
I miss
meantime,
you
we have
too.
Baa Bean.
We have Baa Bean.
You see, that's the thing. Baa Bean is meant, it's kind of funny. It's meant for Clifton Home
those
residents
spaces.
and their friends.
Right.
But as I speak, there's something else coming up in East Legon.
Come on.
And it's going to be TeaBaa, and it's going to be a vibe. So you know what? We just need to grow together.
Yes.
TeaBaa has always been a community thing. It's not been me at all. So I just also felt like at some point I said, should I go on Instagram and talk about how I need a space, and if anybody had like the plug to anything they could, and a few people said you probably should do that because I'm pretty sure people know of spaces,
Yeah.
but sometimes you just want to do this by yourself and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But actually maybe I could put that out there because it's never too late.
If you guys have a space,
The perfect
DM us,
space. I'll
DM
pay the
Dedo.
rent.
Yes,
I'll pay the rent.
reach out.
Yeah. Because it is a community, and I don't want it to die off just because I can't
Right.
find something that works.
But you
So
know
I'm
what?
keeping that. Yeah.
I believe that nothing before its time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I also think that I'm not that old, but in my
You are.
experience,
Right.
Makeda, what I've come to find out is that like we're not always meant to be on a high, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll go on our high, but
Yeah.
then there are years, that ask questions and years
Yeah.
that give answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are years we're on our high, and then there are years we're not necessarily on our low,
No.
but if we're not on our high, we're getting our knowledge up.
Yeah.
We're getting our experience
Absolutely.
up. We're
Right.
increasing our
That's
resilience.
what I
Do you
feel.
see what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that might just
Yeah.
be what this season
Yeah.
is. And it's like
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
respect the season.
That's true.
I mean, I'm sure you're gracious when people talk to you about this, but if anyone is giving Dedo pressure, respect the season, okay?
Respect.
Respect
No,
the
you're right.
season.
You're
Because
right.
when she comes back, she's going to come back stronger
You're right,
with
you're
more
right.
experience. You know
Yeah,
what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, because I have learned a lot in the last, and I needed the year to take a chill pill.
Right.
I needed to chill because it was hectic. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be as successful as it got so quickly. And coming from a background of no restaurant, no waitress, no nothing, I was like, whoa, what have I
That's
started?
amazing.
You're
That-
learning
that
as
is
you're
amazing.
producing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'm still every single day I learn something. So it's been now when I watch TV and I watch the food in the restaurant, I'm like, oh, I know that. Oh, but I had the gift of making good food and putting tea blends together and stuff like that. But you're right. I've just felt like the year was necessary for me to sit back and rest because it was getting too stressful. And I was like, okay, I need a break. So when I closed, I was happy I closed at the time that I did because I felt like, okay, it's time to regroup, go to the drawing board, jot down what I've learned, what I need to learn, what I need, what I don't need. So I'm still in that process. So when it opens, it's gonna be a lot better.
Yes.
I know that it's a bit
Amen. And we'll
love that.
It's gonna
definitely
be
keep
open.
you guys posted on that.
Yeah.
And you'll keep us posted, of course. We'll be right there.
Yes.
And if you're
Of
ever in
course.
Ghana, go to Baa Bean. If
Yes.
you come, when are you opening again?
But I'm gonna,
This year.
This year, it'll be.
I'm putting pressure.
It has to be the first half of the year.
Sure.
First half of the year, I should open.
And you know what,
Because I
Dedo?
want to. Yeah.
If you don't, it's okay.
It's okay.
Oh, but I will.
She's like, don't
Because
give
you
me
know
that
what?
energy.
Because I like money.
Yes.
I like business, and I like the fact that I'm not broke, and I like the fact that every day I see a bit of money coming into my.
Money.
No, yeah. But
There's
that's
nothing wrong
a-
with that.
Oh yeah, of course not.
Tell you, it's encouraging. We are
It
not
really-
to be
listen,
All
living
the
on
money.
love alone.
My
Money.
mom always
Cost.
says, my mom always always says to me, I come home sometimes I'm like, oh, we had an event and I'm never having an event again. That's before I go in to do, and then I think I go in and then I count my money and stuff, and then and the next week she's like, where are you going? I'm like, oh yeah, the event is on again. She's like, you like money? I said, yeah, I do. Yeah. You know, so it's that has been good.
Right.
It's been good. I feel like I've been so blessed to kind of you know, I never thought I'd be doing this at this time of my life. That's the strangest thing. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but I never thought it was going to be food or restaurant or people. I never thought. So it's, you know how they say people write letters to their future selves and stuff like that? I just feel like, if you're struggling in what you're doing, or you don't see the end of it, or you don't know where you're going with it, be patient with yourself. It happens. I feel like it happens to everybody, but it happens in your season. Because if you had asked me 5 years, even five years ago, if you had asked me what I'd be doing by now, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. 4 years ago, maybe not, but it just, something happens and then you just have to seize the opportunity when you see it.
Right.
But you have to know what an opportunity looks like.
Right.
But if you don't know, then it's just going to be, it keeps dangling in front of you, and
you don't know how to catch it. You don't know that you're supposed to catch it.
Yes. But if you catch it, you can roll with it.
I don't know. I feel like Ghana is like, because it's an emerging economy and space, there are so many things. Like you talked about, you wanted to create something, you would want to create something that you would miss from Canada.
Yes.
And not to say we're trying to make this space into these, international countries, but the place is ripe.
Very.
To
really
create
is.
things, there are a lot of things that still are not 100% minted, and this is where I think people like us need to be here to add into and add value to the space.
But we have to acknowledge the fact that it's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Because Ghana, as much as Ghana is open and ready for all these things, not everybody has experienced what you've experienced.
Right.
Not everybody sees where you're trying to go with your business or what you're trying to create for the community. So people sometimes fight against it. People sometimes are like, oh, I don't get what you're trying to do.
That's real.
And you have to it takes a special kind of strength to push through, because there have been a lot of times where I felt like, oh, maybe I should just give up. Every day I think to myself, so can I be here next year? Or will I be in Ghana still? Like, I watch TV and then I'm like, oh, maybe I should move to Mexico. Or maybe I should move. Every day you have to fight also not to leave, because it gets hard.
Right.
It gets hard. So it's not easy. It's barren. There's a lot that can be done, but you'll have to come here with no expectations, no demands, no nothing. Just take it as it is and just roll with it.
Right.
I think.
No, I agree with
Yeah.
that. When people talk about, oh, what do I need to do to come back? I always say, like, it's a mindset thing.
It is a mindset.
Yeah.
Right? It's not even about make sure you get your shots and your passport. Like, get ready to unlearn almost everything that you've learned.
Everything,
and,
not almost.
And yes, get ready to unlearn everything. And you have to be strong in the process of learning and being open to it. Man, like it's really like a mindset thing and being resilient, because these little things can break you. If you're not,
they're not little things.
they can break you.
All things
They
break
can break
Yeah.
you and frustrate you to a level where you're just
And
like,
it's a
I'm
daily
outta
frustration. Like,
Yeah.
even when you're making it, you're still frustrated. Because sometimes I listen to the people who have done this before me, and their issues are, it's like the same, and they say it never changes. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. So but people call and they're like, oh, we want to move to Ghana, but we're not sure. What should we do when we come to Ghana? That is the hardest question to
Yeah.
ask.
I know. You don't know where to
can't
start.
tell
But everybody who's
yeah.
coming back home wants to know what they can do.
They need to come and figure it
Just
out.
come and figure it out,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I came to Ghana to start a customer service consultancy. That's what I came to Ghana to do.
Interesting.
Can you imagine? And TeaBaa, you know what? We're good. We're very good, by the way. But customer service is something that we still struggle with, because
Right. Yeah.
Ghana's still new to the concept of customer service. But who would have thought? So that's what I came to Ghana to do, and what I'm doing right now has little to do with it. Well, in the grand scheme of things, it has a little to do with it. So you'll have to come back and figure it out. But you have to come back thinking that I'm not going to abandon shit.
Run
I'm not going to
away.
run away.
Right.
That's the only
Right.
thing. Once you have that, you're going to be fine. But a lot of people that I moved to Ghana with when I moved back, they've all come back. They're probably like 10% of us left.
Right.
And we meet each other and we're like, we're still going. We're
Right,
still
right.
going, you know.
Dope.
10 years is a long time.
Dedo,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
so much.
Oh, you're welcome. This has been fun.
We've gotten so much information today, and I think you're amazing. And again, anyone visiting Ghana, if you're in Ghana, go to Baa Bean, and TeaBaa will be open in
Yeah.
2020.
Yes, that's for sure.
Thank
That's
you.
for sure.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Dedo.
Thank you too. Thank you for having me.